Hello and welcome to the Geeks Review. I'm Royce.
And I'm Jake. I was in Agnetha DeVoe and Lion Goats with Royce.
Thank you for joining me today, Jake.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So, because the cinemas are still shut and there's not a whole lot going on in the world, there's not been many new releases, so instead I'm bringing everyone I know in to talk about their favourite films and TV shows. And Jake, I understand you have something for us today?
Yes, I have something of a controversial choice for you today. Because although it's widely regarded as a terrible film, it is one of my personal favourites, and that is the Doom 2005 movie.
Yes, that's starring Dwayne Johnson.
Oh yeah.
And Carl Urban.
Yes, my personal boy crush.
And Rosamund Pike, who's also great.
Personal girl crush, so very good movie for me.
Very great movie. So this is based upon the video game series that's been going from the 80s about demon slaying and all sorts of things like that.
Well, yes, but most people seem to think it's based on the first Doom game and the second Doom game, but arguably I'd say it's more based on Doom 3, which is more of a darkly lit survival horror alien menace situation, which is more accurate to the movies. It does make the movie good, but it's, yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say, it doesn't really feel like it was started as a Doom movie. It feels like they sort of went like, oh, this could be interesting, let's put Doom in it. Or is it closer to the games than what it seems?
Honestly, it could have just been a generic sci-fi, darkly lit survival horror shooter movie. And I think they thought, hang on, Doom 3 was also a darkly lit survival horror sci-fi shooter. Let's get some brand recognition in here. Its success was limited, but you appreciate the effort.
So do you want to take us through the film and sort of explain it? I mean, I have seen it, but
for the viewers. Well,
for the viewers.
Well, essentially, the plot of Doom 2005 is a group of United States Marines are assigned to go to this base on the moon, Mars, because there has been reports of violent situations with the scientists, lots of screaming, blood, unmentionable things, and they go to Mars. The situation is worse than originally assumed, and as you'd expect, most of them get picked off one by one. As it turns out, the scientists, spoiler alert, by the way, if you haven't seen the movie, just letting you know, I'll be talking about the big plot twists at the moment.
It's been 15 years.
The monsters were the scientists who had been corrupted by a gene which gave them an extra chromosome. Very poorly thought out plot aspect right there, I'll tell you now.
Yes.
But the 24th chromosome either turned if you were inherently evil into a monster, or if you're inherently good into a superhuman. How you can be inherently good and inherently evil, I'll leave up to the scientist. That is outside of my field of expertise.
Yes. It's a bit of a strange plot from the demon killing in comparison to sort of make it a bit more biohazard-ish, a bit more...
I suppose they wanted to make it a bit more palatable for the wide audience, which they probably didn't think through very well, but it's really more just a framework. But it did also raise some very interesting points throughout the movie. For instance, one character, Goat, who was a very religious man and a member of the Marines. He was transformed. However, he was inherently evil, so he started to turn into a monster. However, because of his incredible faith, he chose to kill himself when he transformed instead of becoming a monster, implying that even though you're inherently evil, you can still do good. As well as the main character, Reaper, played by Carl Urban, very nice. He was inherently good, but he himself admits he has done bad things, which really says inherently good, inherently evil. Does it really matter in the end? Or is it back to
arbitrary,
choice?
yeah.
Yeah.
It is more grey than anything.
So it's really more delving into who's more aggressive, who's more passive, I'd say. But it raises some interesting questions.
There's one character in there who is especially aggressive, played by Richard Brake. You might know him as Joe Chill from Batman Begins, the guy who killed Batman's parents.
Portman.
Yes, and he also played the Night King in Game of Thrones, the first one. The good-looking one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ironically, seeing he's very slimy, creepy, grabby.
Yeah.
Makes your skin crawl to watch him work.
Yeah, he's really been typecast into that role.
Which is a shame, because I'm sure he's a lovely man.
He must be, yeah. I mean, he has to be. He is.
You'd hope so.
But yeah, as soon as they show up on the Mars base, he's very much like, oh, Rosamund Pike, and he's very, handsy with her, and she's like...
Excuse me, lady, I ain't going to have to strip search you.
Yeah.
That is not a good pickup line, I'll tell you now. You will get slapped with a restraining order.
Also in this film is Dexter Fletcher, director of Rocketman, as Pinky.
Yes.
Yes.
Which Pinky was meant to be a reference to the iconic Doom monster, Pinky, which is a big, pink, hulking man beast. Look-wise, it's not particularly accurate, but as a little Easter egg, it was very much appreciated.
Definitely. I did look that up because I thought this character seems very distinct. But then when I looked it up, it's like, okay, it's nothing like that at all.
You take what you can get with these things. And little Easter eggs do make movies like this more fun.
Yeah. I mean, you've kind of got the big gun, the BFG.
BFG, the big expletive gun.
Yes.
Give it BG, Jacob. Which was, I've got to say, very satisfying to see in the movie, and did call back to the fact that the BFG in the games was just a big blast of plasma which just tore through everything. So seeing that in the movie, held by The Rock, was, suffice to say, quite satisfying.
So what is it you really like about this film? I mean, Rosamund Pike and Carl Urban, attractive combo.
It's honestly hard to pinpoint it because I know in my heart and mind, objectively, it is a terrible movie. The characters are one-dimensional. The tropes are rampant and not particularly good. There is a lot of problematic stuff in it. But I just can't help but love it. It is one of my guilty pleasures. It is one of those movies I always go back to when I just want to sit back and watch a movie and enjoy it. Also, the soundtrack is fantastic.
Well, yeah, it's perfectly fine to have guilty pleasures. I mean, when you said you wanted to talk about Doom, I tried to watch it, like, genuinely, like, oh, I quite like this film when I did watch it. I do remember liking it, so, but I couldn't. It's not on, it's for rent on Foxtel.
It is impossible to find. It is incredibly hard to find, I've found.
Yeah,
I had to watch my old DVD copy, which was interesting.
Oh, dear.
Remember DVDs?
Yeah, it's one of the more prominent video game movies, I'd say, after perhaps Tomb Raider, Need for Speed, and then the Resident Evil games.
Exactly.
And films, I should say.
None of which have been overly accurate, but I've found all of them enjoyable. But I do have horrendously low standards, so take that with a grain of salt.
Well, we can also talk about video game movies if you want to.
Oh, I love a good video game movie. I love a good video game.
But yeah, it reminded me very much of the Resident Evil films, like which had very little to do with the games themselves. You had Mila Jovovich across 20-something years playing the same character in 10 different films.
They had the same names.
Yeah.
Accuracy to the characters was non-existent most of the time, but they had the names.
Yeah.
But at the same time, as a movie series, I love the Resident Evil movies. Again, objectively, terrible, but I keep coming back to watch them. There's just something about them that draws me in.
Yeah. I definitely have favourites, so that says something about them.
Exactly.
You're like, oh, I can't remember if I liked 3 more than 2 or something. But back to Doom. One thing I found interesting about it was that the leading lady and leading man, brother and sister.
Yes, which was a nice change of pace, I've got to say. Normally you'd expect there to be sparks flying and romance and all that. Thankfully it didn't go that route because that would be taking the movie in a very different direction.
A very Lannister direction.
Very Lannister direction.
Yeah.
Also as attractive as the two actors that played the Lannisters, but let's not go there.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting dynamic to have.
It was. On the one hand, I could feel they did waste Rosamund Pike a bit, being, she was just screaming and being saved most of the time. But at the same time, she's also displayed as a very competent, intelligent scientist.
2005 was the same year that the Pride and Prejudice film with Keira Knightley came out.
Yeah.
And she played Jane Bennett in that. And this is, a few years before Gone Girl. This is before, Rosamund Pike, she's that big actress who's really good. And she's really good in this.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, she's not given a whole lot, but that's it.
She's given more than Mac, who was the stereotypical token Asian character who got one line where he got to introduce his name and have it being made fun of being hard to pronounce.
Oh, really?
Remember that? Remember the old days when we used to use Japanese names as jokes?
Oh, dear.
I was rewatching it last night. I thought, this would not fly today.
No, definitely not.
But it was a product at the time. We've grown past that, thankfully. And what's funny, as a kid, I thought, wow, that is a hard name to pronounce. As an adult, I think that's easy. Why are you struggling?
What was it again?
I can't remember off the top of my head. I know his last name was Takahashi.
Oh, that's easy. No, that's Takigi.
He had three names, and all three were easy to say. I can't remember off the top of my head. I can't remember most names off the top of my head.
Yeah, you called me John once. No, you didn't.
It wouldn't surprise me. It's happened before.
Yeah, I think I called you Josh once, though.
More than likely. At work, I call the dogs the wrong name all the time.
But Doom, we're here.
Doom, yes, sorry, Doom.
Dwayne Rock Johnson.
Yes, he was only a little baby Dwayne. He was only monstrously ripped, not horrendously ripped.
And he has hair.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
It's
which is unsettling.
All the mass from his hair just went to the muscles.
It must have done. It's just he's scary these days.
He's also considered to be one of the more bankable, charming actors.
Well, he does have a certain charm to him. He has that very, big, tough, but kind of fun and lighthearted aspect to him. Not so much in this movie, but
No.
in general.
He's a bit stiff in this one.
He's very much the Semper Fi, loyal to the core, we do the job. Innocent lives don't matter. That kind of hoorah, military, yeah.
It's very James Cameron's Aliens when they are all
Oh, yeah.
introduced.
Very Colonial Marines.
Very, very, owes a lot to that. And he's, of course, one of the guys who does turn evil towards the end of the film. Spoiler alert.
Yep, spoiler alert, yes. He does. Turns out he is inherently evil, and he embraces it.
So he doesn't go full monster, does he?
No, we don't see him go full monster, but he's starting to partially transform. But it could be that because he was just so The Rock,
Yeah.
he might have not fully transformed. He might have just been a partial transformation.
Yeah, because I
He
do
did
remember...
retain a lot of self-awareness.
I remember him with the green eyes.
Yes, and the little kind of elf ears happening. The knuckles
right.
expanding and breaking his gloves because nothing says I'm muscular like your knuckles expanding.
Poor Sylvester Stallone with his flattened knuckles.
Yeah, poor Sylvester.
So you do have a first-person segment in this film.
Which is by far probably my favourite part of the segment. It is obscenely corny. You're essentially watching an on-rails arcade shooter, but every time it comes on, I love it. The music's great. It's just the right level of corny while still being cool to watch. And it's fun. It's a bit of fun, levity, over the top. Feel like you're in a video game movie. And I think more games should have that because we're here to watch a movie about a video game.
Yeah, it is very lighthearted. And is the music actually from the game?
Not actually from the game, but it is very much inspired by the games. It's
Right.
very, very Doom inspired, which is why I like it.
Yeah, because I mean, yeah, you're watching a video game film, which is about killing demons and monsters and stuff, and stomping on their heads and shooting them and all that stuff. That is Doom, isn't it? Stomping on. I can't remember now.
Some of the Doom games you do, yes.
Some of them, yeah.
But
the new
Dead
ones.
Space is the one most well known for stomping on heads.
Yeah. How about that? It's terrible. But yeah, I mean, it is fun to have moments like that, and it wasn't as bad as a lot of people said.
Oh no, I think it's still a fun movie to watch. It feels all the needs you'd expect from a sci-fi hoorah military action shooter.
Yeah.
You've got your typical stereotype characters. You've got your violence. You've got your guns. You've got your hoorah, let's go, Semper Fi nonsense. The one-liners, the characters you want to see die, the characters you don't want to see die. It really just delivers all the basics. It's cathartic at the end of the day.
It is.
It's not a piece. It's not a work of art. It's not a masterpiece. It is cathartic fun, and that's all I can ask for in a movie like that.
Definitely. Anything else you wanted to talk about it?
I think that covers it. It's just I like to point out that, like I said before, with the aspect of the character Goat, the movie does get surprisingly deep at times. But at the same time, would it have been better seeing that in a deeper movie?
Yeah.
Because that surprising depth in a movie like Doom can kind of seem like they've wasted it a bit.
They could, tackle it in future if they were to do maybe a reboot or a remake. I know there was another Doom movie that only came out like a few years ago.
I haven't seen that one myself, but yeah.
No, neither. But at the same time, I'm sort of more interested in the characters that they have here. And I guess since everyone's still around,
Exactly.
they could just redo it.
They're all still acting, just make them a bit older.
Yeah.
I mean, Carl Urban still looks as young as he did back then.
I was actually thinking in this film, Carl Urban does look a little younger than what I'm used to.
Yeah, it does throw you a bit, but...
I'm not really a big, I guess you're also a Lord of the Rings fan.
Oh, absolutely.
And he's in that as well.
Oh, yes.
And I'm more familiar with him as Bones in Star Trek films.
Yes.
Where he's a bit more grizzled, a bit more older.
Yes.
And watching this, it's like, wow, you're so young.
Interesting thing about Carl Urban is he was in this video game movie, which I liked, but then he was in a comic book movie, which was genuinely fantastic, as Dredd.
Yes.
But all you see the whole movie is just his lower jaw. But if you've read the Dredd comics, you'd know that you never see anything else. And the fact he never takes his helmet off, unlike Sylvester Stallone in the original Dredd movie, it's brilliant. And he has the perfect scowl, the kind of grizzled macho voice, I'm Dredd, bro, I am the law, kind of situation, and it's brilliant.
Do you want to talk about Dredd?
I could talk about anything. I'll talk about both Dredd movies.
Yeah,
Because-
I haven't seen the original.
I'll say you now, it is inaccurate, it is terrible, it is corny, and I love it. But again, like I said, my standards are horrendously low. Take that with a pinch of salt. The original Dredd movie is Dredd in name and design only. He has the design and he has the name. Everything else is just Sylvester Stalloning it up everywhere. With over-the-top, ridiculous line deliveries, corny one-liners, over-the-top action, just utter nonsense, and it's brilliant and terrible.
It's just like another sequel to Demolition Man, eh? Yeah.
Demolition Man, also fantastic movie. Also objectively kind of dodgy. Also just full of all the same nonsense you got back then. Just the one-liners, the over-the-top
Better than
liners.
Dredd, better than the Judge Dredd, though.
Oh, absolutely. I still think Demolition Man holds up somewhat.
It does,
somewhat. It does have some, let's say, less than savoury ideas and kind of glorifying what he represented, which was the typical hoorah macho man of the 1980s. But at the same time, it was a fun movie.
Yeah, and that's all you need, really, which is, sometimes just fun. Just, it's not mindless fun. There is some thought to it.
One thing I would disagree with is people who seem to think every movie, every video game, every comic has to be worthy, has to be something deeper, something more meaningful. When at the end of the day, sometimes all you need is something to be a bit of fun. Just have a bit of nonsense with it.
Exactly that. On the topic of video game movies, before we get back to Dredd, Tomb Raider is one of the bigger examples as well. You had the two films in the early 2000s with Angelina Jolie, and you had the reboot based upon the rebooted games with Alicia Vikander a few years ago, and Walton Goggins, who's great as well, and Dominic West. So, just very quickly, what's your sort of thoughts and opinions on those? Because those are very true to their core games, both silly fun and torture.
I haven't seen the newest one much yet, unfortunately, but as for the earlier two, I love them. They're fantastic. Angelina Jolie is brilliant in both of them. They've got a lot of actors I love in that one. They've got
Chris Barry,
thank you. I'm terrible with names. I was forgetting the names. Daniel Craig in the first one.
Yeah.
In the second one, you've got Jorah Mormont.
Yes, Ian Glenn, also in the Resident Evil film. Yes, everything's tying in today.
Ian Glenn's in a lot of things.
Yes.
And they're never good, but they're always enjoyable.
Shade at Game of Thrones, eh?
I mean, I loved Game of Thrones. Loved being the operative word here.
Yes.
The original Tomb Raider movies were the right kind of over the top and corny. Angelina Jolie was not a deep character. She did not really have a character arc. She knew what she was doing from the get-go. And that's what you want from Angelina Jolie and what you want from Lara Croft back in the early games. Because based on the early games, she was just immediately competent, cool, in control all the time.
And in the new one, she gets the absolute stuffing kicked out of her.
Which is more accurate to the new games.
Yeah, where she, it's the beginning of her career and she goes off and, gets stranded on a deserted island and up against like a small army of mercenaries and...
Has all manner of horrific things happen to
her. Mostly ribs and spikes through the abdomen as opposed to anything really unpleasant, although there is hints at that and the threat of that, and there is quite an intense scene in the film where this guy is holding her down and throttling her, and she barely manages to overpower him and drown him in the mud.
Which is just, it's very visceral.
It is.
Which, if you're a fan of the original Tomb Raider games, is a bit more than you're expecting. You're expecting dual-wielding handguns and dinosaurs, not horrendously realistic violence and murder.
They could have gone the dinosaur route in the films, could they?
I honestly wish they had, because I would have loved to see a fight a dinosaur.
Yeah.
Because they're already going ridiculous, over the top, supernatural crap, like the crate of life hidden in the middle of Africa, because and all that, but dinosaurs, apparently too far.
Yeah. Or shooting tigers. That's a bit far, actually, maybe.
I mean, tigers didn't do anything wrong, they're just hungry. We all get hungry.
The tiger knew what she did to her butler.
Well,
she
locked him in the freezer. Locked him in the freezer. We all did that, let's be fair. We're all sinners.
That is a reference to the third game.
For those who don't know, back in the original Tomb Raider game, that you had a butler in the mansion that would follow you around everywhere, walking slowly and jangling his coffee and teacups. What you could do is, because he followed you, you could lead him into a freezer and then lock the freezer behind him, keeping him there forever so he'd stop following you. Now, because this was an old game, nothing actually happened. He just stayed there and kept continuing his animation. But looking back as a player, you kind of realise you condemn this old, frail man who just wanted to bring you a nice hot cup of coffee to a freezy death. Back in the day, we were all sociopaths.
Oh, dear. And they had him played by Arnold Rimmer. from Red
Yes,
Dwarf in the
which
film.
is a very interesting choice of casting.
Yes.
I personally love the actor, but
Oh, yeah.
from a very 90-year-old rickety man who couldn't stand up straight to Arnold Rimmer was an interesting casting choice.
Yeah. One I appreciate. And Noah Taylor was in that as well. Australia's Noah Taylor.
Yes, actually, it was too.
Yeah.
There are a lot of good actors in those movies, surprisingly, looking back.
Yeah. He had John Voight as well, playing a dad.
Always nice to see.
Very, very
very good casting.
Dominic West plays her dad in the new one.
He does too. I quite like him too.
Yeah, he's really good in it. The new one is a lot more visceral like that, and quite emotional. In regards to that, it does get a bit, silly towards the end. It goes full Tomb Raider. It's like, we're a Tomb Raider movie. Here's like a skeleton that pops out of its carcass.
I mean, that's what you want from game movies. That you can get serious, but you got to sprinkle some fun in.
And I think they're doing a sequel to it.
More than likely.
Last I heard. But yeah, fingers crossed it's good.
It's like everyone in the Uncharted movie, and they're saying they get a cast. Was it Matt Damon?
I thought Nathan Fillion was the popular choice.
Oh no, everyone wants him to play it, but the actual Hollywood wanted to cast a big name actor. But then Nathan Fillion made a short fan film as Nathan Drake, and it was perfect, proving to everybody that they need to get Nathan Fillion to be Nathan Drake.
Nathan Fillion actually looks younger than Matt Damon does now anyway.
He does, and he's a lot better looking. No offense to Matt Damon, he's a lovely guy, but Nathan Fillion's a stud.
Yeah.
He is the Brendan Fraser of the 2000s.
He is. He's getting into the body discussions.
There is nothing wrong with appreciating a man's body.
Oh, no, for sure. But I mean,
Remember, they're not just a slab of meat. They're a slab of meat with a personality.
Precisely.
And at the end of the day, aren't we all just that?
Doom proves that. No, not Doom. Doom does prove that, but also does Dread. 2012,
Yes.
Carl Urban, Cersei Lannister, Lena Headey is in it.
Yes.
And so Dread is quite a satirical comic book.
Absolutely.
But this one is a bit more sort of hard-edged violence and sort of not so much the social commentary or Nigel Farage caricatures and all that. It's he and his new partner get trapped inside this mega tower, and Cersei Lannister, Lena Headey, sets her gangsters on him. She's like the crime boss, and
Yes.
it's
And it does show that Dredd's character is one mired in violence. He does not know how to solve problems without using violence. His solution is to gun down every criminal in the building. And then when he gets to the top, and she's rigged, spoiler alert to everybody who hasn't watched Dredd yet, she has rigged a bomb to explode if her heart stops. His theory is not to capture her alive. His theory is to throw her out a window and hope that by the time she hits the floor, she's out of range. Thankfully that does happen, but not my first choice. But the movie itself was fantastic. It was well acted. It showed exactly what Dredd's character was as someone who was just completely, wholly, unapologetically dedicated to justice in the most extreme fashion possible.
because it is like a sort of post-apocalypse dystopian future
Yeah.
where cops have been replaced by judges who are judge, jury, executioner when it comes to dealing with criminals.
So pretty much like 2020. But yes, so and they get a lot cooler uniforms than cops do.
Oh,
I gotta
yeah.
say, I would love to just drive around with a helmet and stuff like that. Though I do miss the old 80s. We just had the ridiculous golden eagle head on the shoulder.
It's very the very 21st century approach to the costume design with toning it down but keeping the core elements
Yes,
like you do
which
see in the MCU.
I don't mind.
It's functional.
It is. While I do love seeing the actual costumes shown, I can appreciate why they want to keep them a bit more serious for the wider public. Because if you've seen Hawkeye's original outfit, you can see why they gave him a lot more toned down, realistic one. Because his actual outfit's very purple. Oh, but Hawkeye has just typical leotard spandex, scale mail. It's all purple. He has a silly mask, pointy ears. It's all
that's right.
purple. Very
Yeah.
purple.
And imagine if they had kept so many other heroes in that costume from a silhouette perspective.
Oh, yes.
I mean, Scarlet Witch, you got Wolverine, Beast to a degree, with his big ears.
Well, yes.
Yes. I didn't realise you were talking about the MCU for a second, and I'm like, is that a character in Doom I should know? No, not Doom. I keep saying Doom, and I mean Dread.
Now, to be fair, Hawkeye is a very common nickname for a lot of characters in a lot
Oh.
of genres, so that's understandable.
You want to talk about Last of the Mohicans?
Oh, I haven't seen that yet. Keep meaning to watch that, but apparently it's quite good.
It is really good, yeah. So we've talked about a lot of films today.
Yes.
Doom, Dread, Judge Dredd, Tomb Raider. Films.
Yes, Resident Evil.
Resident Evil, yes.
Yes.
They're all pretty good in their own way, and that's some are deeper than others.
Oh, absolutely. That's what you expect from movies, though. Some want to tackle the deeper issues. Some just want to have a big, fun, popcorn, blockbuster flick, which also appreciated.
Definitely, yeah, and it's perfectly fine to like those. Yeah. And I mean, not that we're exactly discussing. We've not really had super deep discussions on this show before, but it's good to just have guilty pleasures and indulgences.
Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, one of the best things for mental health, you come home, you're feeling crappy, you've had a bad day, you just want to just lie on the couch, put on your favourite movie and sit back and enjoy it. And that's what movies like this are great for.
Exactly. Anyway, that's been the Geeks Review. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week. Not too sure what with, but we'll see you then. I'm Royce.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you then. Bye for now.